Hi everyone, I'm Joanne and I'm a Terry Pratchett / Discworld fan. Woo! My special guest is Karen J Carlisle, writer and illustrator of steampunk, Victorian mysteries and fantasy. She was shortlisted in Australian Literature Review's 2013 Murder Mystery Short Story Competition. She's currently writing the second book in her cozy fantasy mystery series in Adelaide. Her short stories have featured in the 2016 Adelaide Fringe exhibition, A Trail of Tales, Where's Homes, Dead Steam, oh goodness, anthologies. What's more, she's a huge Terry Pratchett fan. Welcome to the Lost Con, Karen.
Hello, Joanne.
Yay! Now, first of all, I read your book, Aunt Enid, Protector Extraordinaire. It was so much fun. I loved it. Loved all the characters.
I enjoyed writing it.
I know. Could you please explain what it's about for those who haven't read it, and how did the idea for the story come about?
Okay. Aunt Enid is without spoilers, Aunt Enid is a 70-something-year-old little old lady. And she is the only person. She loves to crochet. She plays bingo. She has garden gnomes out the front, and she also is the only person standing between the dark coming through and destroying our world and protecting our world. So she's our protector extraordinaire. And it was actually, I don't know, actually. I think I was looking at my garden. I got garden gnomes. I've got quite a few garden gnomes.
And there's one behind you right now.
Yes, this is Red the garden gnome. A friend of mine 3D printed him. He's a steampunk one.
Oh,
see?
very good.
It's pretty cool. But I was reading a thing about Adelaide has very alkaline soil. And of course, you go into the botanical gardens and you've got the plants in there, and they change color depending on whether it's alkaline or whether it's acidic. And I thought, ooh, what if I made that a plot point? So there's, how would I say it? Oh gosh, having a mental moment. If Adelaide was like the Hellmouth, and how would you tell that things are coming through? So I actually use the fact that you can use those plants to tell whether the soil's acidic or alkaline to protect us. And of course, Aunt Enid has these plants at the front of her house. And I actually have an Aunt Enid myself. Actually, she is my great Aunt Enid. And when I was a kid, we used to go to her house, and she had these bushes down the bottom of her steps. This is in Queensland, so it was an old Queenslander house. And she had this big old wood burning stove. And we used to make lemon butter on it. That was a thing we did. Every time we went there, we made fresh lemon butter. And actually, in the back of the paperback version, there is actually her lemon butter recipe as well. So she likes cooking. And for some reason, I just had this thing in my head that, you know, she's this little old lady and she kicks ass and she protects us all. I mean, there's not enough stories with little old ladies, you know, women over 50 that are the main character, and they're the good guy, the hero or the heroine. There's not enough of them. And so all these things started going in my head, and there's just so many things from my childhood in there. Like one of the characters drives an old Wolseley. And we actually had an old Wolseley when I was a kid.
Me too. My dad had one as well.
It actually broke an axle going down a hill. We used to live at Blybly at the time. So there's all these little things from my childhood in there. And I'd come out of a dark place mentally with my ex-work and anxiety and PTSD and stuff like that. And I'd come through and I'd written my first books, which were a lot darker. And then I was getting to a point where I needed something. It felt like a weight had lifted off and it felt lighter. And I thought, and just it's lots of things in together often just pop in your head and you go, ooh, what if I did that? And ooh, what if I did that? But yes, the main character is based on my actually own Great Aunt Enid.
Oh, excellent.
Pretty
And
cool.
so do you often, like, when you're trying to come up with an idea, or that one just came to you because you saw, because of that, but do you write, like if you hear a snippet of conversation, or if you see an interesting person walking down the street, do you take a mental note or a note down and go, oh, I could use that one day?
I don't actually say I could use that one day. What often happens is, like, the first book I did, Dr. Jack, which is based on Jack the Ripper, which is one of the darker ones.
Yeah.
I was listening to, I think it's The Who, Behind Blue Eyes.
Mm-hmm. Maybe. Yeah.
And I went, oh, so he's the bad guy behind blue eyes, and no one knows what it's like. So I'm going to do something with Jack the Ripper from his point of view. It just popped in the head, and I'd actually been watching quite a few Jack the Ripper documentaries at the time. A friend of mine is actually a ripperologist, so it just popped in there. And I'll see something like Department of Curiosities. I was just looking at steampunk stuff, and there was this picture of this eye, this mechanical eye with screws sticking out of it, and I went, oh my gosh, and it just popped into my head. So it doesn't go in fully formed, but the idea goes in there, and it worms in there and goes, oh, what if this and what if that? And then suddenly you go, oh, and so suddenly I'll get a title. If I can get a title, I can hang things off it. It seems to be my brain. Sometimes the title changes, but usually the title stays. But yeah, a song snippet, something I watch on television. My hubby will say something sometimes, and I go, oh, you've just given me an idea. I was talking to someone else, just the other weekend, and I was saying something, and I went, oh no, I've just got another idea. It literally pops in there. And so I do write down the idea. I've got these little books, which I found at an op shop. And I've got about 5 of them for different things. So one's for a particular series, and then I've got ones for fantasy and one's separate. So I write them in there. And then if more ideas pop in that are related to that, I suddenly get this sort of, it's like the birth of a son. You suddenly get this critical mass, and you go, oh, I can go there now. And then you start researching. Sometimes just research for something else, I'll get an idea. It just, yeah, I don't have a problem getting ideas. I have a problem having time to follow them up.
Yeah, I listen to occasionally someone else tell a story, and I go, oh, that could be good, and I sort of make a mental note. I have got a file in my word processor, and then I go, this could be interesting, so I'll put that aside. So with Aunt Enid, it's way different to your other themes, because normally it's steampunk or Victorian themes, like you said, Jack the Ripper. And I love Viola. She's a sassy female, as there probably were strong females back in the 1800s that weren't allowed to shine, because a woman could not possibly have the brain capacity like a man does, So were you tempted to turn Aunt Enid into a steampunk thing as well, or were you happy to keep it as a cozy mystery?
I think for about 2 seconds, probably, I thought, well, I could make it steampunk. No, I'll do it this instead. It just, when I first started writing, I actually was planning on writing fantasy, and then it turned into a mystery, and then it turned into steampunk, because I'd done steampunk beforehand, so just for some reason it just ended up that way. So I didn't actually start writing thinking I'm going to be a steampunk author. It just happened that way. And a story I've had in the back of my head for about 20 years now is actually a fantasy story, and it's still gurgling away in there. It hasn't got enough of the world developed yet to write it. So it just, I don't know, Aunt Enid just was it it was a really, really, really hot summer. It was the summer beginning of 2018 to end of 2017. It was really stinking hot. It wasn't the one with the bushfires. And it was just stinking hot. And so I started thinking about the heat, and that was part of the thing with, so the heat and the soil and everything all brings in the opening for the bad thing to come through. So The short answer is for about 2 seconds, probably steampunk, but no, it wasn't really a steampunk story.
That took a long time to get to that 2 seconds.
Yeah.
But it was great. So when did you decide that you wanted to write? Or what came first, your love of steampunk or
Steampunk.
the steampunk came
Well,
first?
I actually wrote a lot when I was a kid. So I actually won, my very first thing I ever won was, I think it's still over there on my bookshelf. It was when I was 9 years old. I think that's grade 4, and it was a poetry competition, which is weird because I'm really not that great with poetry. And I won a copy of West of the Windishans. And so and I used to write little stories with me being, the Doctor Who's companion when I was young.
So that's almost like a fan art.
It was a bit. And then I actually wrote technically my first book was written in grade 12 on a typewriter with a carbon copy, and somewhere in the I've got to find it, somewhere in the shed in the boxes of stuff from uni. And it was what would you call it? A science fiction comedy? I don't know. And it took me all year to write. So that's the first one, but it's never seen the light of day. But apparently I found it many years later. My brother had read it, and I didn't know that. So it's in the shed somewhere. And then it was one of those things where, I wanted to be a writer, but writers didn't make money, and I wanted to be a photographer and they didn't make money, and I wanted to do cinematography and film, but from behind the camera. And of course, back in the 80s, women didn't do it much at the early 80s. So I did my optometry career and sort of put it on the back burner. And there was a couple of situations, like I wrote there's this defunct Australian role-playing magazine, and I actually wrote some articles for that and did some artwork for that. And later I did some artwork for a indie comic, and you sort of did it and then didn't do it for a while, and then did it and then didn't do it for a while. And it wasn't really until all the stuff happened at work, which is a very long story. Sorry, that's my grandmother clock.
That's
on the
okay.
Wall, which is the only thing that tells me what time of day it is when I'm writing. So yep, there we go. And for the people who are wondering, it runs early on purpose. And so when everything happened at work, I was basically told by my psychologist, find your bliss. And I went, my bliss is writing. So I started writing, and that was about 2012 that I actually started writing in earnest. And that's when I actually started Department of Curiosities. But then the proverbial hit the fan. It's a child-friendly event, so I won't say that word. And I put Department of Curiosity aside, and I only had 3 chapters left to go, but I put it aside because I wasn't in the headspace for that. And that's when I started doing the Viola Stewart series, because it is a lot darker.
Yeah,
it is a lot darker. And then it's actually quite cathartic. Writing for me is quite cathartic. And I got through the 3 books of that one. Then I felt okay, and I started writing Department of Curiosities, and I finished that. So I finished it. So I was very happy about that. And then
that's the big thing. Even if it doesn't get published, as long as it's finished.
Well, did you know that less than 5, it's about 3 to 5% of people who actually say they're going to write something and start writing actually finish?
Yes.
It's only, so just finishing it was good.
Yeah.
And then of course I was in a much better headspace, and then the Auntie Enid stuff happened, and I had a ball. Things had popped, like, I'm not going to do spoilers, but the freezer scene just popped in my head, and I couldn't stop hacking myself. It's just, no,
I loved it. I've got to read it again, but I loved it. Well, for 2020 was, not a very good year. And once again, it's a child-friendly zone, so I could say it was worse than what it is. So it wasn't a fun year for everyone. What impact did it have on your writing or your day-to-day life? And does it feel like it's getting easier?
Yes, it's getting easier. During COVID, if you talk to creatives of any sort, whether they're actors or authors or artists or even costumers, there's 2 camps. One buckled down and did lots of stuff, and the other camp, basically 2020 didn't exist for me. As far as I'm concerned, it was just a total write-off. I have some mental health issues anyway with anxiety and PTSD, and I'm a bit of an empath, so I pick up on other people's things, and I actually got quite down for a lot of that. And it was very hard to create new stuff. And when people are like that, so anyone watching, if you're in that situation, you really need to chat to someone, okay? And so what I did is I concentrated on art and designing covers, and I did some cover commissions for people, and I did some crochet. Crochet's cool.
Did you make sourdough like everybody else?
No, I didn't.
I didn't either.
Crocheted. And I concentrated on online events. So I was trying to get out of my comfort zone, and because I couldn't go out of the house, I was trying to do stuff. So I actually did quite a few UK and US online events and conventions, particularly steampunk ones, and a few, every now and then I'll do Zoom tea parties and stuff like that. So I concentrated on that side of it. It was really, really hard. It's like getting blood out of the stone. I had some ideas, I wrote them down, but I did research. Yeah, it was hard. It was very hard.
And I suppose too, because you can't get out and about, if you would normally go for a walk to sort of clear your mind and get us and sort of concentrate on something else so that story can seep in through the back door, you can't do that.
My place was the library. I would go to the library a lot, and I couldn't go to the library. We couldn't meet up with my writing group and my friends. So it just, COVID. I'm actually fine being by myself. That didn't bother me. I actually love my alone time. It's just I couldn't create. And when I can't create, I get with myself. And my hubby often says, go and create something. You're getting grumpy. But yeah, COVID was hard for a lot of people, but it's definitely getting better. I've actually, this year I've managed to get going and finished the final of my first draft, and I've gone back and I'm actually doing rewrites. I'm up to about chapter 10 and rewrites now. So
chapter 10 rewrite. So I was just going to ask you about your writing process. This is just for me, not for everybody else. Do you edit chapter by, so you write the full chapter like a first draft and then edit it and then move on, or do you write the whole draft and then just edit?
Technically, you're better off doing the whole draft before you edit.
Yeah.
But I actually I can only get about 4 or 5 chapters. I do like about a third.
Yeah.
And then because a lot of mine, I like putting in Easter eggs and little tiny tidbits that if you read it really carefully, you'll go, oh, and you come back second time and hopefully you'll find something you didn't see the first time.
Yeah.
And with mysteries, clues and stuff like that. So I'll do about a third of the book in first draft, and then I'll go back and I'll go through it a bit, and I'd make sticky notes. I have sticky notes.
I know. I've seen your Instagram, and it's like a wall painting of Post-it notes.
So I do sticky notes as I go along in that first bit, and pull out bits like I must remember to finish that bit, and I must remember to do something about that, and I must remember to do something about that, and then I do the next section. And I actually handwrite all my first draft because for me it connects.
No, you're a crazy woman.
I know, I'm crazy. Well, I do love notebooks. I collect them. I've got to use them. But it connects. I seem to have a connection to my, probably because I do art as well, my creative side of my brain. I can come up with more ideas while I'm handwriting. And then I print it out and I edit on the computer, because that puts me in a more technical, it seems to get to my scientific brain, which I studied, did a Bachelor of Applied Science. I've got both, I'm like this person with 2 separate halves. It's weird. And so in the second part, I'll have something that's come from the first part and the second part, and then I'll have sticky notes for that. So what I'm actually done is I've done chapters 1 to 6 are in about the third rewrite. Chapters 7 to 9 and 7 to 8 are in the second rewrite. I'm just doing the first rewrite on 1 to 10, and then the last 4 chapters I don't do the rewrite until I've gone back and do everything, because I need to make sure I pull up everything. So, but sticky notes are my friend.
Actually, if you saw my writing desk, I'd agree it's all just piled up with sticky notes. But I think now I might move on to why we're really here, and that's because of Sir Terry Pratchett. So when did you first discover his books?
Well, weirdly, I discovered him before I discovered his books. So my second marriage was in 1999, and we had a not standard sort of honeymoon. We went over to Kangaroo Island for the first bit, and we saw the whales and stuff like that. It was great. And then for the second week of our honeymoon, we actually went to Melbourne Worldcon 1999. That was that was so cool. And I actually met him there for the first time. And he was talking about stuff, and he picked my brains about colour vision and people with colour vision problems. And I've always expected the bursa to end up with some sort of blue, yellow, weird colour vision issue from taking frog pills, because you can get that certain medications for men. I won't, it's a kid-friendly environment, can actually give you blue, yellow colour vision defects. And I always expected that to turn up somewhere. So that was the first time I met him. And then, of course, later down the track, Dave's always been, my husband's always been a really big Pratchett fan. And so we went to the 2011 con in Sydney, and I won the thing to him to have dinner. So I got to sit with him and have dinner, and we had a really amazing conversation. And then I thought, oh, I better start reading some more of his books.
Well, that was going to be one of my questions was, do you remember what you chatted to him about?
Yes, I do. Part of it was the right to assist in dying, and some of it was very personal, which I don't mention because it was actually quite personal, some of the stuff he was talking about. So, so we talked, it was everything you don't expect. It was like, it was just really interesting. And he was such an amazing man, even when he had his Alzheimer's issues. He was just so amazing to talk to. And so after that, I started reading his books and I watched some of the television series. But weirdly, I probably connect more to the books because in a lot of the writing courses I've done, they study him. Like he's an inspiration to, I would love to be able to do his humor, and I will never ever be able to do his omniscient quirky narrator, which I would love to do, but I would never be able to get there. I just amazing writing. So
he's got a quick brain.
He's got a very quick brain. But so probably I'm more into Discworld because I had met him in the first place, and he was such an amazing guy and such a nice guy. And then I met him again, and I was devastated when he finally passed. It was like losing a friend. But weirdly, even though I'd met him only once or twice, it felt more personal because I'd actually had that connection with him. So that's probably, of course, now I've come to love the world because he's an amazing world builder as well, and his little quick-witted things like 4X and stuff like that. Just amazing. So
he was.
I love death.
So
I love the character.
I sort of got a little bit of a wind up there. So we've got only probably, I'm not sure, about 5 minutes left, I think. So I've got some questions from the Lost Con Facebook community. Are you ready? So Bethany asked, who is your favourite Discworld character?
Oh, my favourite Discworld character is Death, closely followed by the Librarian.
Yeah, I love Death. I love all his books. And which, I know, and like I know that you like to costume, so this is a really good question from Bethany as well. Which Discworld character would you love to make? Because I know you've already done Susan.
I've done Susan, and I've done one of the
marching girls.
Postal marching girls. And I did Richard Gilt for my hubby as well. So I would love to do the Tooth Fairy.
Yeah, that could be a good one. Yeah, with the curly hair. She was so cute. Okay, so Denny would like to know, where do you think Terry's influence shows most in your work, and in what ways has his work influenced your writing style, if it has?
Well, the humour, I try to, humour is the hardest thing to write. I try to put little bits in there, like I was said before about the freezer scene, which I won't, you got to read it. Okay, I won't tell you what happens otherwise. But just, I'll be writing and all of a sudden this little, it's almost like he's sitting there going, why didn't you say this? If that makes sense. So I would love to be able to do the wit and humour that he does. I think that's probably what really, yeah, and some of the things, the ideas he comes up with, I would love to have come up with some of those ideas.
I tell you what, even some of his, at the beginning of his, and when he does like the dedication, that should be a story on its own, because that's just so funny.
Yes.
Okay, so Mark would like to know, who are your favourite authors besides Terry? Okay.
Oh, lots. Jim Butcher, Gail Carriger.
Yeah.
I'm reading, I not necessarily my favourite author, but I've discovered a thing called the Vampire Knitting Club.
Oh.
And the Miss Fortune series is another thing I'm reading. But I like lots of books.
Yeah, I'm the same. I
am a Lord of the Rings fan too, so.
Yeah. So he also wanted to know, what is it about steampunk that attracts you as a writer and a reader?
I do more of steampunk than just writing and reading. I'm actually part of the community now, and I have been part of the steampunk community for about, well over 13 years. So it's the community, the people, the inclusive nature, which doesn't sort of make sense if you think we're doing 19th century, but we're changing 19th century to really be what we would like it to be. It's whimsy and art and science all together. It's if you go with Victorian 19th century steampunk, it was on this cusp of when you're coming from superstition and myth and belief and all these things like that, and then you're finding science. And of course I did study science. I did visual science, and I'm a scientist, and I actually wanted to be an astronomer, and I almost became a physicist. So I love science, but I love art as well. And I actually wanted to mix art and science at school, and they wouldn't let me because they said, no, you cannot do them both. And I went, to you. So now that's what I like about it. You've got science and you've got art, and you mush them together and have fun. It's just, you can disengage your serious brain and just have a ball.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah.
Okay, so we're almost out of time. So where can people buy your books from? And you've also mentioned a special deal.
Oh, yes. Okay. Well, first of all, I'll say for people who are attending the convention, so it's just for you guys, you can, if you order a book from my website over between the 3rd and the 5th of July, so I've made it a little bit longer than the event, then you can actually get a signed and numbered book plate, which is an exclusive design for this convention, for the Lost Con. And so that other people don't go on and get it, I've got a secret code word you can put. So when you order it, just put it in the message area. And I thought, well, we'll use Forex, F-O-U-R-E-K-X. Sorry, E-K-S. So if you put that down there and you order a book, you'll actually get that. And
so spell that again.
F-O-U-R-E. Sorry, start again. F-O-U-R-E-C-K-S.
Okay, good.
It's hard. And the first 10 people, whether they're at the con or not, that order books that weekend, will actually get a Fae Tale sticker. Fae Tale's the second book in the Aunt Enid series as well. So if you wonder where to find my stuff, it's simple. It's www.karenjcarlisle.com. And if you go /shop, then you get my shop. And if you buy a paperback from my website, then you can get the special book plate. You can also buy books. I'm just about everywhere. I'm on Book Depository, and I'm on
Amazon?
Freshwords, and I'm on Amazon,
Yeah.
and I'm on Barnes & Noble, and I'm on
But
I'm everywhere.
if in doubt, KarenJCarlisle.com.
Yeah, if you do the shop there, it actually tells you all the places you can buy me as well. But if you
Okay.
buy directly from me, you'll get the thing.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for joining
thank
us
you.
at the Lost Con.
Yes.
That was so much fun.
You can also support me on Patreon
Yes.
and get exclusives, and you get books early and everything.
Yes, that's awesome. Thank you very much for attending with us, visiting us and
Yes.
chatting.
I'm going to have lots of fun with all the stuff. I'll be there.
That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm just gonna